mean, some of the earliest successes I had was when I learned about creative financing, where I ran out of money real fast for down payments, and I had lots of equity, and I just didn't know how do I move forward. And I was introduced to seller financing, where I could get into the property with no money possibly.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show. I'm your host, Erica, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Stephen Weinstock, a multifamily investor and podcast host who's been making waves in the investing space. Stephen, it's awesome to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. So let's dive on in, Stephen. For those who don't know you yet, give us the rundown. How did you get started in the investing world?
Sure. Back in 2001, I was living at home with my parents. I had a corporate job, didn't have too many expenses, but I always knew I wanted to get into real estate, and I just didn't know how or what. And I decided to call a bunch of brokers, and I settled on a certain market about 45 minutes from where I live. I'm born and raised in New York City, and New York City was and is a very tough market to break into. And I did have limited funds, and I was able to find a house in Trenton, New Jersey, single family home with the listing price of $32,000. And I put down 10%. Back then, the mortgage standards were a bit less than they are today. And I was able to close and buy this house for about $6,000 all in with closing costs. And it had a tenant inside paying about $900 a month rent. And I thought, great, I own a piece of real estate. I'm done. I could pay this off over the next 30 years. And when it's time to retire, besides a fully padded 401k, I could sell this house and not have to sell my current primary, which I didn't have at the time. I was still a kid living at home, but I wouldn't have to downgrade. I could keep my current house and just sell this investment house. And after 2 or 3 months of collecting rent, the numbers really started clicking. And I figured, why just one? Why not two? Why not three? Why not four? And it took me a while, and bought enough where I decided to get rid of my W-2 job and do this full time.
Yeah, that's really awesome. When it comes to your journey with investing, what was it like making that leap that where you no longer had the W-2? Was it a pretty smooth transition? Was it, a leap of faith? What was that like?
So again, I guess I was lucky because I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't have people relying on me to eat. I had a car payment and some spending money I needed to do, and that, to spend on for myself. And as soon as I was making a few dollars, I realized, why work for somebody else? Let me put my 9 to 5 into my investing career, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Yep.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
That's great. When it comes to the properties that you have now, what's like your focus, which markets, and are there specific property types or strategies that you tend to go with?
Sure. So, for the first 10 years of my career, I was buying one to fours. I started with single family, but after three or four, I was really buying two, threes, and fours. I really liked those. Stayed with that asset class till about 2012. 2012, I started buying larger, but not much larger, 5 units plus. It was it's considered a different asset class where you need to now get commercial mortgages. And I was buying fives and eights and 12s and some mixed use properties, with a store, a retail on the bottom, and two or three apartments on top. And then in 2017, I started looking at larger multifamily, and I was looking at different markets. There were people that I was, I guess, networking with, or people I was in touch with that were buying and investing out of state. And I started looking at a bunch of different markets. And in 2017, I found a property in the suburbs of Cleveland and raised some money from outside investors. Over the years, I always had people who always asked me, could I invest? Could I get in with you? Could I buy a house with you? And it never really penciled, to get them involved in, a house for $300,000. But here I'm buying, this multifamily for, a few $1,000,000. I needed to raise some money and made all my calls. And I was able to raise the money pretty easy at the time, pretty seamless at the time. And we purchased the property, and I still own it today.
That's awesome. When it came to, venturing out and when you started getting to different states, did you have to change what you were doing to, balance it all?
Yeah. I mean, when I was buying primarily in New Jersey, it was more of a owner operator type of business. Everything was me. Um, I got all the phone calls. I delegated, if something needed to be fixed, I would call the plumber. I would call whoever it was that needed to be done. I would collect the rent. Obviously, rent collections got a little easier logistically, just with Zelle and electronic payments and better software. But I used to drive down to collect the rent all the time. So when we purchased this property in Ohio, it really taught me that it's not an owner operator business. It's really about teamwork and play different teammates and team players. What might be my strength is not necessarily somebody else's strength. And I realized I needed to create a team in order to balance this. And when I say a team, to deal with investors and investor feedback, investor relations, to deal with the banks, to purchase a two-family home, the application process is a lot easier than when you're buying a $10 million property. And, I just needed to really create a team. So I was always a jump in first type of guy. And we purchased this property, got a great deal on it, but it really taught me real fast that I need to get a team in place. And I was able to get that done. And I was able to buy more in Ohio. And a couple of years later, moved to or added another market that we buy, which is Louisville, Kentucky. And between those two markets, we own about 1,200 units. and we self-manage these properties here in my office in New York. But we obviously have some boots on the ground, employees at the various properties that handle a lot of the legwork.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Yeah, yeah. And with building that team, did you have any growing pains? Was it hard finding the right people, or was there a a method that helped that process become a little bit more smooth?
Yeah, so it definitely was hard. Um, when I started looking for a property out of state, I took on a partner who basically is the opposite of me. He's very organized. He's great with details and Excel and paperwork, and I was more of operating out of my car, and everything was written down, and a lot of the stuff was in my head. And all of a sudden, when we're dealing with a larger property, you need more systems in place. So while I knew that the systems in place needed to be done, I didn't know how to do it. And this partner, came from, a Wall Street background, and he really knew how to, figure out, the best software, the best payroll software, but the best methods, the best way to, just deal with different employees that I typically, I never dealt with employees. I dealt with one-off plumbers and contractors, but to have employees that are relying on their weekly paycheck for me was a little out of my personal comfort zone. But to my partner, this was, like a walk in the park. So, um, I took on a partner for this project, and still with the partner with these other multifamily projects.
That's great that that's still working out for you, Stephen. When it comes to the commercial and multifamily that you do, what's a trend that you see right now that you think investors should be paying attention to?
Um, I mean, a lot of people the last couple of years are nervous about interest rates, nervous about inflation. Um, on a side point, as an investor, I love inflation. I don't like paying extra for my eggs and milk in the supermarket, but I love inflation because if I have a loan from 3 years ago, that let's say it's $1 million loan, and inflation jumps 10%, effectively that $1 million loan that I have is really only like 900,000, because yes, it's the dollar amount is the same, but it's only worth about 900,000, so to speak. So anybody who owns assets, and that's why the stock market did very well as well. Anybody who owns assets and then inflation jumps, yes, it's going to affect you at the grocery and stuff that you're buying, because paychecks might not rise as fast as inflation does. But if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to have as many assets as possible, all of a sudden your values really went up. So that $1 million loan that I had, or that $20 million worth of mortgages that I had, is now worth 22 million, so to speak, because of the inflation. Um, Interest rates. If you asked me a year and a half ago, I would have told you I'm optimistic that interest rates will go down. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said, "Don't ask me the question." Um, in general, I'm an optimistic person. I'm not afraid of the interest rates really going up at this point. I'm just really waiting for that to come down.
Yep, yep. I've been hearing that a lot on the podcast. Stephen, let's pivot a little bit and talk about more about your journey And as I'm sure you know, every investor has a moment where things might get hairy, a deal that goes sideways or a tough lesson learned. Maybe you had to pivot with what you were doing to close a deal. Can you share one of those moments on your journey?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who's been through really hundreds of closings, I've had many mistakes, many pivots. The goal is obviously to be on the winning side. So as long as I'm, a net gain, I'm ahead of the game. But yeah, let's try to think of something. I bought this house, I don't know, about 8, 9 years ago. It's on a busy street in New Jersey. Great house. And um, I was very confident, and I was looking at a lot of property at the time. And I guess I didn't do the best due diligence. And I remember I closed on the property in like October time. And after the closing, I come to the property and knock on the doors and introduce myself. Hey, new sheriff in town, et cetera, et cetera, um, and, introduce myself to the tenants. And the tenants asked me one by one, will we have heat this winter? And I said to them, what do you mean? They said, oh, we haven't had heat. And I'm living here 3 years. We haven't had heat for 3 years. I said, really? I said, yeah. I mean, we plug in, the previous landlord bought us plug-in heaters and we plug it in, but my electric's expensive, et cetera, et cetera. And I quickly go down to the basement and I notice that there is not a single boiler, furnace in the basement, which means all the units have no heat. And believe it or not, I missed it when I bought it. So I quickly, called the plumber and he got a quote to put in a bunch of boilers. I ended up putting just one in the property and jerry rigged so all the units could share off that boiler. And later on in the season, when things calm down and plumbers are not so busy, like in the springtime, I added a bunch. And this was like a real wake up call. And this was far from like my first deal. I mean, I was already rocking and rolling. I was living in a paid off house for myself. I mean, I had money. I had success in deals. Um, I guess I got too cocky. Maybe the deal was just too good where I just made the offer and did it and didn't really dot my I's, obviously. But that was definitely a costly mistake. And it's something that I think about on a regular basis because at the time it was pretty embarrassing. And now I'm sharing it on a podcast for the world to hear.
But you know what? It's moments like that when people come back from that it separates people from oh I just do this on the side to like no like this happened and look where I am today. So
Yeah, yeah.
bravo to you, Stephen. So another thing that I want to chat about with you is relationships in real estate. I'm sure as you know it's so important with what you're doing. What has been the biggest game changer for you? Like what relationship or networking group has helped you level up?
Ah, that's a good question because over the years, I'm in this since I guess 24 years, 25, almost 25 years. And every couple of years, I have like these epiphanies that I think like change the world and everything's going to change. But if I look back, I mean, some of the earliest successes I had was when I learned about creative financing, where I ran out of money real fast for down payments, and I had lots of equity, and I just didn't know how do I move forward. And I was introduced to seller financing, where, I could get into the property with no money possibly. I'd buy a property, let's say for $100,000. I would get a loan for 80,000 from a bank, and then I would ask the seller to finance the 20,000 over, a 4 or 5 year period. And while the cash flow wouldn't be great because I'm fully leveraged, and that 20,000 is over a 5 year period, not over a 30 year period, it allowed me to not just buy a property without any money down, but it allowed me to start thinking very creatively on how to do a deal. And you fast forward 15 years or so, I bought a 180 unit property with seller financing. And, obviously it wasn't structured the exact same way, but without some of those early wins with seller financing and with creative financing, I would have never thought to get it done on a larger $11 million property. So, creative financing is definitely something I always think about. Um, there's lots of deals that might not make sense with a typical, 75% mortgage, 25% down. But if you could structure it creatively where, both sides are happy, sometimes, you can make any deal work. That, and I gotta say networking. I wish I knew networking was so important. I used to think, hey, I'm an owner operator. This is my business. I'm the secret sauce. I don't want to talk to anybody. There's no reason to talk to anybody. Maybe a few brokers here and there, but why would I talk to another owner? They're the competition. And it took me a while to realize that in real estate, there really is a competition because the real estate business is so fragmented. It's so large where if I'm talking to a guy from California and we're in the same exact, asset class, he's not bidding, he's nowhere near the properties that I'm interested in. And for the most part, anybody I speak to or meet in real estate, unless they're literally bidding on the same exact property at the same exact time that I'm interested in, there's no competitors. We're not fighting for the same customers. You're not really fighting for the same tenants for the most part. So it took me a while to figure out that networking was so important. And, it took me a while to come out of my shell. What are they going to think? What are they going to say? I look like a fool. I sound like a fool. And then I realized, hey, everybody sounds just as foolish as I do. So, why not? And that really upped my game. It allowed me to raise money raise capital for deals. It allowed me to have, by being out there, me to, it allowed brokers to call me and say, hey, I have this deal. And I remember when I started getting deals sent to me that were good deals, not just, MLS listings. I'm talking like a real pocket listing, or a seller would call me and say, hey, I know you own over here, X, Y, and Z. You're interested in this. And, if we make a deal, you cut out a broker and there's no, the price is lower, etc. And I realized that, putting myself out there, it's very hard to quantify the exact ROI of networking. Just to give if we have time, just to give an example. And I heard this the other day. Someone told me that there was this guy, I think one of these big one of these big influencers, social media guys. He was in a meeting with one of these corporate like Pepsi or Coke like 20 years ago. And he was trying to convince them to advertise on social media. And, 20 years ago, social media, what's that for? And they kept asking him, what's the ROI? And he didn't really answer. And throughout the meeting, sitting at a table with a whole bunch of head honchos at Pepsi or whatever it was. And there was this one woman who kept coming back, but what is the ROI? If I spend $1 million, am I going to get 1.2? Am I going to get, what is the ROI? And he turned around and he said, what is the ROI of your mother? Now, he didn't mean that disrespectfully. He basically said, like, as a kid, your mother gave you encouragement all day long. You're great. I'm going to buy you a piano. I'm going to, buy you a baseball glove. And it's hard to quantify what's the ROI of your mother or somebody as a kid giving you all this encouragement that now shaped you to who you are. So here's this, this executive is sitting making a couple $100,000 a year on the board in Pepsi or Coke, whatever it is, and some of it has to do with the way they were brought up. And it's hard to quantify the exact ROI every time this person's mother said, "You're great. You could do whatever you want. You could be president." And when I heard that, I realized that I go to these networking events. I fly to them. I go to them all the time. And people ask me, is it worth the airline fare? Is it worth the hotel? And the answer is yes, because I might walk away from an event and not have closed the deal. But, 4 months later, I might see the guy at a second event. And now a month after that, talk to him about a deal and maybe something happens. And again, as long as I'm, net positive, networking is great.
Yeah. I loved it. That was a really, really great story. Really, really interesting. So, Stephen, what's next on the horizon for you? What do you see with your future in investing?
Sure. So obviously, I'm full speed ahead to buy. I recently launched a real estate fund to buy 1 to 4s, single family up to 4 family houses in certain counties in New Jersey. And I'm using the fund to buy these properties in cash. And the reason I'm paying cash for them is because I'm buying them at a big, big discount. So just to give an example, I'll see a 3 family house for $675,000 and I'll visit the property. I'm not just doing this by mail. I'll visit the property and I'll make an offer of 590 or 600,000. And most of the time, the seller or the broker tells me to fly a kite. Hey, it's 675. We listed it 2 days ago, you know. And I say to them, no problem. My offer stands. Come back to me in a month, 3 months, 4 months. My offer stands. I won't try to retrade you. My offer stands. On top of that, I'm paying cash. Here's proof of funds. And my deposit that I give when we go into contract will be non-refundable. So I'm here to close. On top of that, I can guarantee a closing in 14 or 21 days. And, my offer stands. So if I see 10 properties today, just about all 10 of them will tell me, fly it, guys. They'll say, I just listed it. It's an insult. How dare you? And within 3 or 4 months, I'll get 2 or 3 phone calls from those 10. And maybe one will accept, maybe 1 or 2 will try to negotiate a little further, and maybe it won't work out. But usually when they come to me after 2 or 3 months, it's usually because they're either pissed off at their broker, hey, you promised me I can get this and I can't, or they're upset that they were in contract with a deal that fell through. And most of these deals that fall through on these types of properties have refundable deposits. So here, the seller wasted 2, 3 months in contract. The broker stopped showing it. He has no backup offers. And, the person got back at deposit and now he's, starting square, first base or square one or whatever. And so when they come to me, they're usually like pissed off and they hate their broker and they hate everybody else. And they just say, yeah, screw it. Okay, I'll take your offer. And so I'm buying these properties at this big discount. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping it mortgage free for the first year. This eliminates a lot of risk. The biggest risk to investors, real estate investors, is the bank. Why? Because the bank has to get paid no matter what. So if something is not working out great with the property, bank gets paid. Investors don't. God forbid the bank takes away the property, investors lose everything, and they're just wiped away. So here I'm buying the property. In the first year of ownership is when a property has, I guess, the most risk. And I'm eliminating that risk because there's no mortgage. So my investors effectively have like a first lien position on the property because there's no mortgage on it. So it's a $6 million fund that I have, and we're buying properties in cash. And after 12 months, I am refinancing the property, pulling out as much as I could. Sometimes I'm able to pull out more than I put in because I'm buying them at such a big discount. And when I get them appraised a year later, they're appraising it, they're valuing it at the value that it really is, because everything else on the block sold for 675. This sold for 590. They're still going to value it at 675. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the funds from the refinance and I'm rinsing and repeating. I'm buying again in cash. So just to give a quick overview, $6 million fund, buying 10 houses in year one at $600,000 a piece. I'm going to the bank in the beginning of year two. I'm pulling out about 75% of the value, which is 4.8 million. And I'm taking this 4.8 million and I'm now buying 6 or 7 houses instead of 10. I'm buying, let's say, 6 or 7 houses again at a discount in cash. So now, I have the first 10 houses with a mortgage now. After the first year, I put a mortgage on it and I'm able to buy, and I'm rinsing and repeating. It's a 5-year fund, and distributions get paid monthly to my investors. And an investor who invests about 100,000 should walk away with about 190 at the end. And the properties itself are very, I don't want to say secure, although 1 to 4s are considered the most secure real estate out there. Every time there's a pullback from lending, a lot of lenders will say, okay, we stopped lending on everything except 1 to 4s. Blackstone wants to park, a few $billions during a high inflationary period. They're going to buy, 5,000 single family homes. The 1 to 4 market is very, it has a lot of, it has a double pool of buyers who are willing to buy it. If I sell a building that I own in Kentucky for, $10 million, the buyers is really open to sophisticated buyers. You're not going to have a mom and pop buyer, which means the person underwriting the deal, they're sitting by a computer, they're looking at Excel, the rates are 25 basis points too high. I can't, offer that for the house, for the building, or it's worth $1 million less. So you have a lot of people who their exit was planned for, let's say, 2022. Rates went up. All of a sudden, they're stuck holding the property for another 2 or 3 years because they can't sell it. When you're selling a 2-family house or a 4-family house or 1 to 4, there's 2 types of buyers. There's mom and pop investors, smaller investors. I don't want to say not sophisticated because it has a bad connotation, but mom and pop investors, or a homeowner, somebody who wants to actually live in the house. They want to buy a 2-family, live upstairs, rent out downstairs. And not that rates don't affect the purchase. Since the overall loan amount is much smaller, it affects it less. But when somebody is ready to move into a house, they're 32 years old, they have a kid, maybe a kid on the way, they're married, whatever it is, whatever that step is to buy a house, that's when they're ready. They have the job, they got their promotion, they're ready to buy it. So if the interest rates are 7, they're not going to say, oh, I'm going to wait till it comes down to 3, because they need their house. If it costs them an extra $200 a month, so be it. If they have to buy a smaller house, so be it. But the pool of buyers for these types of properties are less affected by the externalities of what's going on in the world, so to speak. And also the mom and pop investors who buy these houses are typically, you can have like a rich lawyer who decides to put down 50%, every couple of years, buys a house in his neighborhood, and, over the lifetime, has a tremendous portfolio. Or you can have like a rich plumber, makes a boatload of money. He's putting down 40, 50%, and he buys a 3-family, house 2 blocks away from where he lives. So it's not necessarily somebody underwriting with Excel and looking at the basis points and the interest rate and every little detail. So when it comes to selling these types of properties, I want to say it's a lot easier because they don't need to wait for the rates. Like I have property that I'd love to sell, some of the multifamily, and I can't because the rates haven't gone down yet. Now I'm fine owning it, and I'm happy with the benefits of owning it, and the value does increase over time, and my NOI goes up, my rents go up. But really, I wanted to sell it because I told my investors I would sell it 2 years ago. But it just doesn't make sense for me to sell it today. With the smaller properties, it's just easier to offload. You're selling, one at a time. I don't have to sell all, 150 units at one shot. I could sell off, one or two at a time. So at the end of the fund, if it's a 5-year fund, if the market is just horrible, I don't have to offload everything at once. I could offload one or two at a time and, gauge how things are going. And, that's just my long rant on my Goethals Capital Fund is what I started.
Well, that's exciting, and yeah, sounds like you got a really solid plan there, Stephen. Before we let you go, if someone wants to reach out, connect, or maybe they want to hear more about that fund, what's the best way to get in touch?
Sure. So I'm all over LinkedIn, Stephen Weinstock. I think there's more than a few of us. There's actually another Stephen Weinstock who's in the real estate business, and I get calls for him all the time. But make sure this face matches up. And if you're on audio, Stephen Weinstock, my company is called We Capital, WE Capital, CAPITAL. The website is wecapitalx.com. Why the letter X? My partner is an Elon Musk fan, something with the letter X. I know he did it with Twitter, but I think he was already involved with the letter X before he bought Twitter, Musk. But either way, my website is wecapitalx.com. You'll see details of my Goethals Capital Fund on the website. You'll see some of my podcasts that I've done. Also write a newsletter. You can reach me by email, Stephen, STEVEN, at wecapitalx.com. I'm on Instagram, but not really. So don't message me there. Although my kids tell me Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn, email, website. And yeah, I think that's the best way to reach me. Or you can knock on my door, but I'll give her my address later.
Stephen, that was excellent. I loved all your advice today. I know that it really is going to help people out. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Erica. I know we rescheduled. I think I was supposed to be on yesterday. Life got in the way, but I'm happy we got to do it today.
Yeah, me too. This was awesome. And for our listeners, if you got value from this episode, make sure that you're subscribed to the Real Estate Pro Show. We've got more conversations coming up with powerhouses like Stephen who are crushing it in the real estate world. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Erica.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.